Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED, AM and FM this weekend, March 28th and 29th. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you. You know, we get together with you once a week right here on AM 1440 to talk about all sorts of issues relating to real estate in Jackson and Josephine County. And here we are, the end of spring break, the end of April. Spring is already here, and wow, things are hopping along. And well, who better to talk about those kinds of issues than our two guests in the studio today on our RE/MAX Market Watch show. And Bob Gervais, who's the principal broker and owner of RE/MAX Ideal Brokers, is here in the house, and always good to see you any time of the year, right?
Good to be here.
Absolutely. Now you mean your company, I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff. What are you seeing this time of the year? You surprised? Things going well? How would you just rate the market just right here in the end of March?
We've had a strong market this whole first quarter. And normally, if I was to guess, we're probably over the last 5 years in comparison, we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 or 30% more activity going on now than we saw in the last few years. Would you say that's truly?
I would think that's true.
Well, that's high. The voice you heard there is Lee Davidson, who's the principal broker at RE/MAX Ideal Brokers. And Lee was up in the RE/MAX office in Grants Pass and is now in charge of the Medford office. And so, first of all, welcome to the show. But how's the transition going from you? From Grants Pass to Medford. It's so interesting to me because so many people don't realize how much commerce, first of all, goes between exit 30 and exit 55, I think, up there. And so there's a lot going on. There's great differences in the towns. But how's the transition for you been to this office?
The transition's been good for me because I used to work for Bob as an agent before I went and did the brokering in Grants Pass. And then when Bob asked me to come back over here, I, of course, said yes, because I never say no to Bob for anything.
Not a good idea.
Hey, you're not the only one, I might add.
I know. It's been different. There's a lot more agents, and there's a different... the Grants Pass office was smaller, and so just a different... I can't come up with the word for it right now, but...
And the markets in the two areas, that's another point. They're similar, but they're very different, aren't they?
They are.
Jackson and Josephine counties.
They're similar, very different. More rural properties go in Josephine County, but their market is good. It is really moving there also. So, and even through the wintertime, did well.
Yeah. Well, I would say we didn't really have a winter. In a normal year, things would slow down in the winter. Now, if we were in the East Coast where they're buried in snow, I'm sure real estate sales were not very good during the last few months.
Get your shovel out if you want to show that home.
You wouldn't be, not making a lot of money there.
But for us, that hasn't been the change. So, Bob, what's the things that you're seeing in your office? I mean, tell us about listings are up. The last time in the statistics that come out, from the SOMLS, we're low on statistics. It's still a seller's market kind of thing. The last time we talked on a show with you two, has that changed? Tell us where that is right now.
Well, there's a lot more activity in the marketplace right now. People are jumping in because interest rates are so incredibly low still.
Low, yeah.
I mean, I just met with a client of mine that is buying a fourplex, and with an interest on a fourplex was like 4.25 or something like that. And so you hear the words pencil. Well, when your payment is so low because the interest rates are so low, it makes a lot of sense to consider an investment property, whether it be a multiple unit or single family house or that sort of thing. So, it's definitely shifted again to a seller's market, particularly in the ranges under $500,000. And as we were talking before we started the show, we still are dealing with buyers that have been are not aware of the change and want to make offers that are 20 or 30% under the asking price. And you show them 10 houses and they lose all 10 of them because they're getting beat out. They need to get either quit looking or be more realistic about the market, which means it's going to be, if it's priced right, at market or a little bit more. In several cases, multiple offers are coming in, particularly for entry-level homes in the neighborhood of 150 to 250, right in that range. There's just not a lot out there.
You still got good things in your favor with the interest rates. To get in now is really everything because the prices have not moved that far. We've seen some pretty steady recovery and normal appreciation in the market. But still, it's the time to get into the game and to have some potential for some really good gains going forward.
Well, if we could all tell the future, we'd all be retired by now. But it's pretty clear that we're on an upswing move right now, and I'm anticipating we will be on an upswing for another 5 years or so. So it's certainly not out of the question, in my opinion, that the numbers come close to where they were in 2005 in the next few years, because the land costs have gone up or will have gone up because they've not, as well as I was explaining to you earlier, Pete, the material costs have gone up. So it's not as if the builders or developers are making big fat money on it. It's just that the cost of doing business, has gone up. So
margins are less.
Land,
as you say, land is up. We'll look at the new home construction prices are up in both counties. I mean, it's the highest. They're higher than the regular sale of a house, which is showing that. So that's unfortunate that that's happening, though, because we're still building the same stuff. And I read an interesting article, about the tiny home movement that's going on around, for old people like us, Joe, and they're going to have to put us somewhere. And we haven't seen any of those. There's a whole bunch of innovations in housing that's going on around the country. Unfortunately, none of that seems to be occurring here.
This is not the big city.
We're not the big city, I know, but it's really cool.
I could live in 400 square feet. I just don't want to go back to college.
That's what it's like, wasn't it? Yeah.
You don't want any more top ramen.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about, what do you deal with your real estate brokers when you got these issues of buyers who are just lowballing, still thinking that they can come in and do that? Are they out of town buyers doing this, or where are they coming from that they have that attitude that they can still? I mean, the market has changed. We all know that they can still kind of lowball things. And what do you tell your agents? What do you tell people? How do you deal with that?
Well, for 7 years, people were saying lowball them, and they finally got the message, and now it's changed. Now it's too late.
Yeah, well,
they should have, would have, could have.
Would have, could have a few years ago now.
Now it's a different game.
Let them go out and take a couple beatings. See how far out of the price.
You put that low price in, and then you get multiple offers, and all of a sudden you're paying more than was the original asking price.
Yeah.
It's an interesting situation.
The answer is before you take people out, do something what is called buyer counseling, and that's kind of like you going to the doctor, and the doctor needs to find out what's wrong with you before he starts prescribing something for you. You sit down and say, "This is the market. This is the game to play. Right. This is the pre-qual letter. This is what you're going to see. What are your expectations? Can we meet or achieve or exceed your expectations? If not, then you're not going to like us at all, and we won't get referrals from you." So, you need to have that type of conversation with your buyers or sellers, for that matter.
What's your real bottom line number, buyer or seller? Just tell me that, because sometimes
that's
hard to flush out.
I don't know if you're ever going to know that, because you never know what happens. All right, tell us about appraisals coming in. Are you seeing in your office appraisals are coming in low? Because I've had that experience several times now, in terms of my price is pretty close, but my appraisals are coming low. The appraisers are not keeping up with the market. Are you seeing that? Is that a problem that buyers and sellers need to be aware of?
I
stumped Bob for just a moment there.
No, I have something to say. But that's all right. I'm going to let Lee answer.
No, the appraisals have been coming in lower, and then at that point, you'll usually ask the seller to come down to the appraisal amount, and if they won't, some banks won't, then you have to pay their price and hope you can come up with the cash.
Or you lose it.
It's as
simple as that,
there's a lot
isn't
of people out there.
But I had a buyer who wouldn't come down. The appraisal was too high, and my buyer said, "My God, this is the price I want." And heck with the appraisal. So the buyer then really has to want the house.
Right, but if it's too high, you just don't tell the seller.
Yeah, well,
I've used this illustration in the past. Real estate's like an arrow. The tip of the arrow is your real estate agent, and the feathers are the appraisers.
At the other end of that.
They're on the other end because we're dealing with the reality of now,
right?
And they're dealing with issues that may be up to 6 months old,
Right.
and the whole market can change in that 6-month period of time. Whereas clearly the demand would reflect the price, but it is not supported by any recent sales that would support that.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we have to get together and pull up comps for those appraisers and see if we can't get it changed.
And it's difficult to get an appraiser, obviously, to change their opinion. I mean, you really have to have
show
something
them.
because my experience, they find they're pretty good at it. Obviously, they should be, huh? And it's difficult to get them to change anything. And so you got to be aware of that as you make your offers and things. I would suspect that be aware of it because it can mess up the whole deal,
Well,
and you don't even know it.
Some of the things with the appraisers is they go in there and there's things that have to be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get the appraisal up, like you need to paint where the paint is chipped, you need to paint over that, you need to make sure your carpeting is in, make the house bank financeable.
Mm-hmm. And
sometimes they're not.
Yeah. Tell us what the status is, in your opinion, right now of the foreclosure and short sale market in our area. I still see it, and we always tell our listeners, Joe, to keep with homepath.com, and HUDHomestore.com. And they still show up there. I mean, they're still out there. But tell me what you're experiencing with it in your office. Are you still seeing that demand, or is that pretty much gone by the wayside now, and we're kind of past that?
Control distortion. The banks are still releasing foreclosures, yes, but the prices are higher because their comps or BPOs are coming in higher, and they're releasing a fewer out at a time. They're not releasing them in bundles. So typically the demand is going to be there, and foreclosures have been around forever.
Yeah, it's not like this is new phenomena the last few years.
But as a rule of thumb, they're getting the dollars.
It's just not as dominant, probably, as the role it played before the last few years, right? I mean,
that's an understatement.
So it's but that's pretty much gone. So it's one of those areas.
We've had discussion on the trickling in of these foreclosed properties for a good year and a half now in the program and tracking them. It's almost like those banks, they can actually afford to hold on to them for the market to recover, and they've been pretty smart in the release and not putting them into the same neighborhoods against one another, and just been slowly kind of working those assets out of their system. Seems like they might have had a pretty good game plan right there.
Well, after this many years, and let's hope they learn something.
If they clear this inventory, don't have to ever go through that again.
Hopefully we've learned through the experience.
I mean, they're still out there, and in certain parts of the valleys in the two counties, they're more significant than others. But generally, the foreclosures are about 11% of the market right now, and short sales are about 5%. And then the listings, which is very interesting to me, there's only 3% of the listings in Jackson County are foreclosures. 3%. And there's only 2% of short sales out there. So, boy, that's not very much. So I think those days.
Do we see any of those when they go through the auction.coms and those type of sites? They
wouldn't reflect in the multiple listings.
There are some, I know, just from personal experience, there are some that are moving through that direction as well. And
a lot of bidding online and so on and so forth with a fee paid by the buyer on top of the price.
Right.
So they're doing things a little different now. And one thing that we've had to do as professionals over the last several years, at least that I've been in the business, is I have to remanufacture myself based on the change in the industry. And gosh knows we've sure had that technology-wise. And the buyers or the sellers today are more knowledgeable than in the history of the United States relative to buying real estate.
People have had to do that 7 times in 7 years.
Pretty sophisticated buyers
anymore.
Pretty sophisticated buyers.
Yeah.
Where are the buyers? Where are the buyers coming from, Bob? That you're seeing, Lee? Where do you see your agents bringing sales to you? Buyers, are they local, coming from out of state, or all over? And are they trending into higher priced properties or into that 150, 250 range that is so popular in our valley because it's an affordable price that people can get a loan for and still stay there and do well?
Well, we still get people coming up from California, but I'm seeing a lot of local people that are coming into our office and buying up going up from the house that they're in.
Okay.
Upgrading for younger families.
All right.
I've seen older couples come in that are downgrading. You know, they want to get rid of the big house and get a smaller house because they don't have all the kids around. So we're still seeing a lot of
There's
locals.
a lot of that movement going on then.
Yeah.
Well, I like that's
this
good
is
to
the
hear.
first time in some time I've
Yeah.
that you're
seen that.
seeing that. Okay.
Because we used to see it all the time. People would
All the time.
move
Right,
up and move
right,
up and move up,
right.
and
Yeah. Well, that's a sign of a healthy market and an improving economy, I think, if we're seeing that kind of thing as well. So those are probably all good signs. We've got a break coming up here, but when we come back after this segment, Bob's going to share with us if you have your house out there, and what do you do to get it ready to sell, right? I mean, that's an important part. If you're going to go out and do this, you better do it right.
Competitive market.
Or you're going to sit there and no one's going to come and buy your house. Anyway, that's coming up next. We're on the Real Estate Show. We're with Bob Gervais and Lee Davidson from RE/MAX Ideal Brokers. It's our Market Watch show on the Real Estate Show. This show repeats at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and catch our shows on YouTube.com. The Real Estate Show rolls on here on KMED, AM and FM this weekend of March 28th and 29th. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate guys, with you. You know, if you have any questions regarding real estate issues or anything, you can always write to us during the week at pretty simple email address. It's Pete or Joe at realestateshoworegon.com. We always love to hear from you. We had, by the way, Joe, a fella here in town who listened to the show and went out and bought his first rental property the other day and wrote, actually he got some advice from Laurel, and they've gone out and bought their first rental property. And so I said, when you get this after a couple of years or a year or so, we want you to come on the show and tell us of your experience of being a landlord, you know, for the first time. And of course, we'll talk more about that next week here on the show.
That'd be a good show.
Yeah, you know, landlords.
We'll see if he still is a year from now.
See if he's still enthused about it as he was when he got into it. Because, man, I'll tell you, I don't know about that anyway. But, you know, if you do it right and you do your homework, and you get a good property with a good interest rate, you can do well. It's a great investment. It still is a great property investment. No question about that. We're talking today with Bob Gervais and Lee Davidson from RE/MAX Ideal Brokers here on our Market Watch show on the Real Estate Show today. Now, as we were talking about, you know, April and May being really busy real estate months of the year, and inventories being low. I know there's lots of people who, as Lee was saying, you know, who locally who are selling their properties, moving up, et cetera, moving down, whatever. But you just can't go put your house on the market and expect it to sell. So do you have some tips for people right now as they're thinking about this, or what they might do to get ready with their property before you call the agent and come over and start actually doing it, right?
Because all those other sellers are.
Because there's nothing, everybody can see it all, right?
They're doing everything they can to present themselves.
But it has to make sense also. See, I'm of the belief that you don't invest $1 unless you're going to get $1.50 back.
Smart. Very smart, actually.
You know, so,
Okay.
you know, you need a new roof. Should you go out, if you're going to sell a house, and put a brand new $30,000 30-year roof on there, or should you give a credit of some type to the buyer so they can put a roof on at their convenience, and you don't have to pay 30 years. You may credit them, you know, $10,000, $5,000. So it has to make sense. And, you know, but by the investment of a little bit of time and a little bit of money, you could really enhance your ability to spend a couple $1,000s in paint and a little bit of work and a little cleanup and that sort of thing. And that $2,000 that you spend to get that work done will reflect in a $10,000 return in the sale of the property, which would make a lot of sense, would it not?
And there's also the 3 Ds of selling real estate.
The 3 Ds of selling real estate. Okay, let's see. The 3 Ds, Joe, of selling real estate. What are they?
You know these? Deep clean.
Deep clean. Okay, that's a good one.
Declutter.
Declutter.
Oh, it just went out of my mind. Deep clean, declutter, and
Demand your husband does all the work.
does all the work. Yes. No. Depersonalize. Because when somebody comes into your house, they want to see themselves in the house.
You take your photographs off the
the wall.
walls and kind of make it to where they can see their own.
That's correct.
Those are
So
three things.
stage your house.
Yeah.
And how many times have we been asked by our sellers, I know that my bathroom is not, should I renovate the bathroom? No. Should I put new counters in? No, because the new people that come in are going to look at those and hate them, maybe even worse than the old ones that were in there.
Yeah.
They're going to want to still do their own thing to it. So there's a lot of things there that you can leave to the imagination, to the taste of the new buyer.
Or just reduce the price of the property by that much,
Or
which
rent, right?
enhances
Right.
its ability to sell.
Yeah, yeah.
You can always say no, right? But you did get the offer.
And pricing the houses. I mean, that's the critical part of this whole thing. Otherwise, you know pretty darn fast, the seller knows when you put it on the market whether anybody's interested, because no one's going to come and see it if it's too high, right? I mean, that's just what it is.
No matter how nice it looks.
No matter what you've done to it, if it's too high, it's too high. And a house is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Actually, it's worth market value is defined as what many people would pay for it, not just one.
What many people would pay for a property. Well, you're seeing some multiple offers still come in though on certain properties, not necessarily higher ends, but in that middle range still is where that's still the big activity goes.
Well, certainly the foreclosure properties are getting multiple offers, but gosh, I've been out there showing a few people some of these things, and honestly, they're ready for a D9. I mean, you're ready to knock it over and start all over again, you know, because they need so much work, and you know it has to make sense.
When you see something like that, Bob, on a property with the house is worthless. I mean, whatever. How do you deal with the price of that thing? Because if you have a worthless place to live or you can't finance it, I mean, it's how does that affect the price of the property?
If it's a real tear down, then you still have the value of the land.
Right.
If you were to look at your tax records, you'll see so much value or percentages given to land and the percentages given to improvement. Typically, it's 25-75, 25 to land, 75. So you have the value of the land and what goes with the land, which may be a well and a septic tank and irrigation and so on and so forth. You can price that and then price the house based on what it has or doesn't have accordingly and how much you depreciate it. If it's a tear down, you get the value of the land less the cost to remove the house.
Less the cost to remove the house. Okay.
And that could be costly.
It could be. Absolutely. You're right about that. You think it's going to be a simple job to knock it down and take it away, but you can't do that the way you used to, because asbestos could be in there and other things as well. Adds to the cost, doesn't it? I
Yes,
mean,
it does.
Adds to the cost of everything that we do.
Just our industry keeps changing.
Don't know why. Okay, now we've had a number of rule changes, as you know, regarding reporting of wells and septics. Right? I mean, we've been telling our listeners, be ready for this because it's here. Have you, at RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers, have you experienced anything with this, or buyers or sellers? Are we confused about it? Is it working? Or tell me where that is, because I think I just think it's going to be a mess. But I always think that.
I think we're too new at it. I mean, it's just a brand new
form. Too early to give
tell.
an opinion.
Right, but I mean, I think it's fairly invasive. If they're going to go run a scope down your drain field, that could be dangerous. It could ruin your drain field.
It could ruin your drain field.
Absolutely.
But do people have to pump? Anyway, there's lots of issues, and your agent should know these, I guess, is my point here in the end. If you're dealing with a rural property, you need to be clear about wells and septics, because if you're going to go sell it, you just can't sell it that way, the way we did 6 months or 3 months ago, right? I mean, it's true. Not the same. So I guess that's the point to remember there. Oh, what a mess we can make. I can't believe some of the things government gets us into about doing this. But
let's talk about some of the simple things that you can do to a house to prepare it for sale.
Okay.
Here's one. After winter, with the lights on outside, you're going to get a whole bunch of little small cobwebs that hang up from the light and so on and so forth. It's so inviting to go into a house and have to look up at that, you know. So you need to get out the hose and hose all of that off.
Yeah. Clean the eaves, clean the lights, get all that crap off there. Absolutely. I agree with that. Yep. All right.
Another thing is, particularly if you have a small house, you need to open it up. And you do that by opening all of the shades and letting the light in. And if you have dark walls have a tendency to close in, make the house look smaller than it really is. So paint those babies white.
Paint the walls white. Right? I agree with that. Paint them. Don't leave them dark. Because you walk into a dark, I can't tell you how many women will walk into a house that is dark and they go, ooh, it feels cold. It's not inviting. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, I'm always looking for good salespeople, and I keep saying, boy, I should go down to the paint department stores and talk to some of those guys, because anybody got somebody buy that color paint, got to be a great salesperson.
Buying that paint is a pretty good salesperson. Well, those are some of the things that you do if you want to sell your property. I mean, you can see people who put properties on. You're right; they look like heck. They sit there.
Different color in every bedroom and every hallway. Yeah. We've all shown them.
Yeah. Another really important thing, though, is when you do list your property, be sure you look at the photographs that the agent is putting in. Yeah. I was with one of our agents today, and we were looking at a photograph, and they were sideways.
They were sideways. That's not good either, isn't it? Okay, we've got a break coming up here. One more segment to go. We're with Bob Gervais and Lee Davidson from RE/MAX Ideal Brokers this weekend on The Real Estate Show. This show repeats at 9 o'clock Sunday morning here on KMED, and all of our shows are at realestateshoworegon.com. We're coming right back after this. The Real Estate Show continues here on KMED this weekend, March 28th and 29th of 2015. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you here as spring rolls along. Hey, we got the pear blossom coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So you know that means spring is here in the Rogue Valley. Can you believe? Gosh, I was over in. Can you believe all the flowering that has taken place on the trees all around? I was in the Klamath Basin this week. I said, and I don't think I've ever seen the Klamath area in bloom in the end of March. My goodness, the world is the winter has been crazy, as we know that, and all those kind of things. Too. Well, it's a wild time. Anyway, so we'll keep our eye on that kind of thing. We're with Bob Gervais and Lee Davidson from RE/MAX Ideal Brokers here on the Real Estate Show this weekend, talking about the market, what's going on. We've gotten some good information. Things are going along pretty well, as Bob and Lee have said with us. Let me just change a little bit of the subject to you both, and I've noticed that. I attend the MLS meetings in Ashland, and I don't go to Medford too often because Medford is Medford's like another world, from Ashland.
Another state.
It's another thing. But anyway, I read all the I love reading all the little journals and all the different information that comes out. And I always look and see new agents and who transferred, who did this, who got revoked, that kind of thing. And I would say certainly in the last, 6 months or so, I've really seen a notice in new agents coming in, getting their licenses and fanning out into different brokers' offices and stuff like that. Is that what you're seeing too? What is happening here, Bob and Lee, in terms of new agents? Is it a profession right now that people should have as an opportunity to earn some money, to make a living right now? Tell us where I'm curious to where you guys think about it right now.
Well, I think it's a sign of the times. First of all, we have a lot of young people that want something more than just a minimum wage job, and oftentimes that's all our community has to offer.
No question. Absolutely.
So with real estate, if you're a good communicator and you could learn, you have a pretty good shot at making a good living here locally as a real estate professional. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen for free. You have to put your time and effort and study and that sort of thing. We do offer classes and a lot of intense training and mentoring and so on and so forth to help folks initiate that change. But the bottom line is a commissioned job. So, it doesn't necessarily reflect on a paycheck every week, which a lot of youth are doing. But, some of these younger folks that are coming up, it's a natural thing for our industry to survive, to get the younger folks to come in. Mm-hmm. And so we actively look for people, because people like myself that have been in business, my operation's been 25 years or so. I'm getting to the point, and a lot of the people that are working for us are at the end of the season for their career. Mm-hmm. And so you need young people to come in and pick up the ball and have a great career, and it's a wonderful career. So it does take a special kind of person. If everybody could do it,
everybody would be. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
We wouldn't get paid very much for the work that we do.
Yeah. And are you seeing? I see a lot of younger people, and I've seen even married couples, new agents, new people come in. It's really across the board. Then, if I'm hearing you right,
you see a lot where like either the wife or the husband has been in the real estate for a while, and then all of a sudden their spouse comes to join them to work as a team. And we're seeing a lot of that. A lot of younger people coming in.
Seeing that too. What kind of training do you give now? Because it would seem that the offices, the different real estate offices, are trying to recruit different people. So, is the training of them? How do you get someone to say, hey, obviously you're a great teacher, you're a great instructor. So, how do you go about doing that? What do you say to people?
Mandatory.
Come to my class. Yeah.
No, actually, we have. We actually, in more recent years, have begun to categorize the classes. So you have the entry-level classes, which might teaches a lot of these folks on a one-on-one basis on how to write a contract and what that's all about. And then there's the mid-range, maybe the people that are doing $2 million to $3 million a year, and then you're the $3 million to $6 million a year, and they want to take their business to the level, and then over $6 million, which is almost a mastermind class where everybody sits down, they know their business, but they work together, passing on war stories and how they do things, giving the secrets that they have made them successful, and they share that with one another. So it's not just limited to, they're all entry-level classes, because we try to give our people a well-rounded education based on where they are in their career.
Because people would be in different levels of selling knowledge, different levels of, I suppose, real estate knowledge that they would come in with. And so you have to tailor that to that person, don't you, to get them, for them to have a chance to be successful.
In real estate, it's really important to understand that it's a career where you have to learn to swim and swim to learn at the same time. So, you got to jump in and get wet, period. And, that's how you're going to learn, by those mistakes, or you learn from other people that have been there before, and try to avoid those mistakes and stay out of the real estate journal.
Yes, just out of the bad part of the journal. But you both are saying that there's still room for additional agents in the market in both counties who can do this and make a living. Is that right?
Yes.
So that is correct.
That is correct.
And you're seeing that interest.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been said that you don't always have to be good, but you have to be there.
You have to be consistent.
You have to show up.
You cannot do it on.
You cannot.
And this is a competitive business too. And I say that, and I like competition. Obviously, Joe and I are competitors in all sorts of different things. I like competition. And it is a competitive business, and yet it's a collegial business, because your other agents that you are in competition with will sell your properties, and you can sell theirs. And so it's very interesting dynamic, I think, that works within real estate.
There's no such thing as friendly competition. That's an oxymoron.
Well, we compete in everything. We always do. Whether you're competing selling a house, you're competing with the guy selling the house down the block, right? If you're buying with somebody, we all compete for things.
It depends on how you believe in it. I believe that there's plenty out there for everybody, if you're willing to work for it.
True words, very true words, and that we'll end our shows with those, Bob. So thanks a lot, Bob Gervais and Lee Davidson from RE/MAX Side Deal Brokers. We wish you well. We'll catch up next time, and we'll see if what we said today is going to come true, right? We'll find out. That'll do it for the Real Estate Show this week here on KMED. Have a great week, everybody. This show repeats at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and God bless you all.
Thank you for listening to the Original Real Estate Show with Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys. For advice, guidance, or counsel on any of our topics, or to watch a replay of today's show, visit our website at realestateshoworegon.com. This show is sponsored by RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers of Southern Oregon, Tycor Title, All Cities Property Management, and the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll continue our weekly quest to enhance the value of your property and to make you a smart real estate consumer when we gather every Saturday and Sunday on KMED for the one and only Original Real Estate Show.